A friend of mine was living in the US. Actually, he's a Kenyan. Was living in the diaspora, but in the US. He'd lived there for about 11 years. And he told me, Pius, I was invited for an investment conference in New York. And this morning, he went for this conference. And the person who was making a presentation, brought the first picture of China in 1980. And the second picture he brought of China that day, that year. Same location, but it just showed the transformation of China over a period of about 20 years. It was phenomenal in terms of how same location had changed so significantly. There were skyscrapers. It was a totally different city, different economy. And the presenter went ahead to say, if you missed China, don't miss the next one. And the next picture that came was a picture of Nairobi. And my friend, with that simple presentation, he made a decision. He was coming back to Kenya. And when he came to Kenya, I welcomed him, and he told me, Pius, I've done CFA, I've finished, I'm highly qualified, but where do I start? And I looked around with my contacts, and he got a job, and he was humble enough actually just to start at internship. Imagine with having CFA qualifications. And today, as I speak to you, he's actually the CEO of that company. And just imagine if he continued staying in the US. I can almost say certainly he would not be a CEO of a company, but today he's a CEO of a company. And this is why Nabo Capital really believes in investing in Africa. Nabo Capital is a third-generation investment firm, and you can trace our roots back to 1954, where our grandparent company, ICDC, was formed in anticipation of liberation of Kenya, or independence of Kenya. In 1963, we got our independence. In 1967, the leadership of ICDC and a few elite Kenyans, they realized that, Kenyans were being left out of investment, and there was a need for them to put together a vehicle that would become an investment vehicle for Kenyans. And that mooted the idea of forming another company, a subsidiary of ICDC, and that company was called ICDC Investment. Today, we know that company as Centum. So Centum was formed in 1967, and what is so unique about Centum is that it was listed from day one because it was supposed to be an investment vehicle for Kenyans. So Centum now became a preferred local investor, and it would partner with multinationals that were coming to Africa and to Kenya in particular. For example, General Motors East Africa. For example, the Coca-Cola bottling companies, as they were coming into Kenya, they found Centum, which was positioned as a local investment partner, and Kenya and Centum was able to become a core shareholder, and even today it still is invested in some of these blue chip multinationals. And that is really what really began our story of investing in private equity, of investing in Africa, long before people started talking about investing in Africa. So fast forward to 2009, we were joined by James Moria as the CEO, and he became the youngest CEO in the stock exchange. And James Moria had brilliant ideas of how he would transform Centum to a global company. And one of the ideas that he had was to invest in Africa and not just to invest in Kenya. And that really triggered us to do our research. And after that research, we were quite confident that the opportunity was not just in Kenya, the opportunity was in Africa. And we were only worth about 5.9 billion shillings then, which is equivalent of $59 million today, $590 million today. And that really began our journey. And we were so successful over the next 5 years, we were able to grow that portfolio from 5.9 billion shillings to just shy of 30 billion shillings, which was our strategic target. So it was a very rapid growth, just continued proving to us that investing in Africa was ripe, and it was evidential in our numbers. And that created another problem for us. We started getting people coming to us, and they were saying the only way to access our track record was to buy the Centum share, and they wanted to probably participate in real estate or in public markets or in private equity only. And it posed a challenge to us, and we deliberated amongst ourselves, and we made a decision that it was time to open doors to managing third-party funds. And that is how we formed Nabo, and Nabo became the third generation investment company. And Nabo is now investing on behalf of anybody from Kenya, from Africa, from the world, who is wishing to participate in the African story, in the incredible story of investing in Africa. So why would anyone want to invest alongside Nabo? One is our rich heritage, and I've just explained to you our rich heritage. We have more than 50 years of investing across the continent, and that we have learned very many lessons, some of them good ones, some of them bitter ones, and this experience is what we are able to pour out to our investors when they come to us. So heritage. The second thing that why anyone would want to invest to invest with Nabo is our track record. As I explained to you, our track record, we began in 1967 with a mere $26,000. By 2008, that had grown to 5.9 billion shillings, which is about $590 million. And today, that portfolio has grown to more than $660 million. So we have a track record, a proven track record of partnering with the best multinational brands in the world. We have a good track record of managing money. We have a strategy that really distinguishes us from everybody else. I remember in 2009, as we were deliberating on our strategy, we made an observation that if you remove the 5 most liquid counters in any African stock exchange, you're left with a relatively illiquid asset class. And these are companies which are under research. These are companies that no one is really particularly following. They're below the radar of investors, and some of these companies are actually leaders, or they're actually leaders in their own sectors, and they have significant growth potential. And we said, because our key competence is actually doing the hard work of private equity, why not use our private equity expertise in the listed space? And that's how we coined the word quoted private equity, and we started practicing quoted private equity. And that portfolio was started with $23 million or 2.3 billion shillings. And over the next 6-7 years, we were able to generate more than $70 million in investment income from across the continent. I normally joke that we've literally been importing GDP into our country by investing across the continent and bringing money back home. So we have a strategy that has been proved successful. We also have a philosophy, a very unique philosophy that really sets us apart from everybody else. Our philosophy is based on the 4 Ps. We call them the 4 Ps. When you're finding out which are the best companies, the first thing that you look for are partners. Who is the best partner? And we prefer partners who are specialized in the investment that you are making. So if you're investing in a bank, we prefer to invest alongside specialist strategic partners who specialize in banking. If you're investing in a beverage business, we want to invest alongside specialists like Coca-Cola, Diageo, Submiller. And that is something that we have learned over the years, that if you invest alongside strong partners, you're able to endure difficult times when they come. The second thing that we look for in our philosophy is profit. We don't look at just accounting profit, we look at economic profit. And economic profit is we ask ourselves, how much money does this company make? Is it more than the cost of capital? And we prefer companies that have a healthy spread of positive economic profit. Some companies we have identified, they are literally destroying wealth, and we are able to distinguish them and avoid investing in those kind of companies. And we're able to also identify companies that have strong business models that are able to generate real positive wealth. We also look at potential. We used to have a company that was very strong, had very strong partners, had very strong positive economic profit history, but that company encountered a challenge when Chinese started importing counterfeit products that were competing with their products, and that completely destroyed their future. Fortunately, we were able to exit, and that really taught us a lesson that you should always invest in companies that have a potential or future prospect, positive future prospects. And when you look at partners, we look at profit and look at potential. The companies that we tick on these three things are the really companies we consider to be good companies. But again, we don't get carried away by good companies. We believe that good companies, we must buy them at reasonable price. So our last P is price. And we go out there, we look for companies that are trading below their fair valuation. It involves a lot of work. It involves a lot of channel checking. It involves a lot of, out of the box kind of thinking because of our private equity background. And that is really what we consider our philosophy. As you can see, is very much borrowing from our private equity history or heritage. So our track record also is something that speaks for itself. We've been able to go out there to various markets. At any point in time, we invested in 6 to 8 countries. We move around our money from underperforming markets to markets which are performing, and we are able to generate alpha for our investors. We're able to beat the benchmarks that have been set for us by our investors. And last and finally, and the most important, is that we have an incredible team. We pay our team very well. Actually, one of the that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves, that we pay our teams very well. We have a very rigorous graduate trainee program. We believe in building our team members from the ground and giving them a unique culture, a unique way of thinking, the Nabo way of thinking. And I always give myself about 2 years because of the number of securities that they follow across the continent, about 700 securities. They're able to gather experience quite rapidly, and they're able to be identified as some of the top-notch analysts in the sector, in the industry, not just in Kenya, but also in Africa. So those are the 5 reasons that I really believe that anybody should consider investing with Nabo Capital. Thank you very much for watching.